So it doesn't bring me any pleasure to really talk about this fight too much, but at the same time, it is for a championship, and it does have some significance where I guess it's going to really lay out the landscape of the 140-pound division. George Kambosos is going to be taking on Richardson Hitchins for the IBF 140-pound title, a fight that's been building up for about a good 8, 9 months. We've been hearing about this fight, and they're going to be fighting in New York on June the 14th. The undercard was just announced yesterday. It's going to feature Andy Cruz in an eliminator for the IBF title against I don't know, I haven't seen this guy before. A Mashiro. Basically, there's the card on the page, and what I'm going to say is this: Eddie Hearn cards have been abysmal over the last year or so when all of his fighters have been losing. This card right here, I got to be honest, for a style like Richardson Hitchins and George Kambosos, it's looking like it's going to be a snooze fest. It's looking like it's going to be a snooze fest, and it may be the end of the road for George Kambosos. So let's get the particulars out of the way. George Kambosos, 22-3 with 10 KOs, former undisputed, whatever you want to call champion. I hate that whole franchise era of boxing, but whatever the case may be, I'm going to say he was undisputed. The lineal champion. At 135 pounds, Richardson Hitchins, 19-0 with 7 KOs, 27 years old. He is from Brooklyn. The fight's going to be taking place in the Hulu Theater, or the theater in Madison Square Garden. That's called the Small Room by boxing fans. And if he goes on to win, let me pull up the rankings here at 140 pounds. He's got the 140-pound IBF title. Alberto Puyo is going to be taking on Sabril Matias. That's going to be in July, I believe July the 12th, on the undercard of Edgar Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz and Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda. That's going to be in that tennis arena in up, in the middle of New York, basically, meaning deep inside New York, past Brooklyn and past Harlem. Teofimo Lopez, he is the WBO champion at 140, but he's being heavily linked to fight Boots Ennis, and his run at 147 was already on the way. He's been talking about it for several months now of moving up to 147 and hasn't even been mentioning any type of unifications at 140 pounds. And Gary Antoine Russell, we don't know what he's doing next, but I will not be surprised if he ends up also on the Manny Pacquiao, Mario Barrios, Tim Tszyu, Sebastian Fundora card, or at the latest on the Tank Davis Lamont Roach card that's supposed to be taking place in August. So, Big J, I got to be honest, I just don't get no motivation talking about this fight. George Kambosos, just to pull up his record, as you can see here, his last really legitimate win where it was uncontested outside of Jake Wiley, of course. And, that was you can't really count that. Teofimo Lopez, that was in 2021. And since then, he has gone 2-3. And he could easily be 1-4, depending on, which way the Maxie Hughes fight went. So how are you looking at this fight?
Well, I think to be fair, you probably have to give the advantage to Hitchison because he's a lot bigger. His style is all wrong for George. Is Hitchison a left-hander? No.
No.
Okay. I'm just concerned that I don't know if George can get it done. Can he bring back the ferociousness? We haven't seen it since the Lopez fight. Having said that, he does have a flawless record overseas. He's never lost overseas. He's only ever lost in Australia. But I don't know. He has not looked good enough for anyone to say that he's got a shot against Hitchins. Of course he has a shot because he's in the ring, but bar getting some, lucky punch in, or Richardson or Hitchins having a really, really off night, I don't see how George can pull it off. I certainly hope he does, but Richardson is the younger, bigger, stronger man. Yeah,
Also,
George is a tiny.
Kambosos didn't have a knockout since he hasn't had a knockout since 2019, June of 2019.
Exactly. I mean, he knocked Lopez on his ass, but he hasn't. He hasn't really done anything since that punch. I mean, the rest of the fight he got up and he won it, but he hasn't really looked good since that Lopez fight. I mean, Maxie Hughes, a lot of people, including us, thought that George lost that fight. Jake Wiley can't count. He's just a domestic level fringe contender. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of concerns with George that if he doesn't get this done, which I don't think he will, it's probably time to call it, a day, unless he just wants to play a gatekeeper role for the young fellas moving up, trying to get a former champion on their record. But why continue to do that? I mean, why?
And that's
young blokes when you.
That's where he's going.
Well, that's where he's going to end up. He's going to end up a gatekeeper role for young blokes for them to beat him up so they can get his name and resume. So,
I mean, when you look at the top fighters, he's fought Lomachenko, Devin Haney twice, Teofimo Lopez, and now he's fighting Richardson Hitchins. You can't doubt his heart because he will go in there and fight anybody. And people don't run to fight guys like Richardson Hitchins. If he loses, it's likely his last title shot. I don't know. I mean, here's the thing: the problem. It's not a problem, but he's only 31 years old, and it makes you wonder that if he loses to Hitchins, does he go the route of a rebuild with a whole new team, or does the money that he's made over his career, because he's cleared, he's cleared. I'm going to say, I'm off the top of my head, at least 12 million US, at least, in his career. So, will he have the motivation to keep going, or as you said, like he's one fight away from being a gatekeeper, and he's been a main event all of these fights. So he's going to become a mid-carder gatekeeper. If he loses to Richardson Hitchins, I can't see any more opportunities out there for him. And another thing that we haven't addressed, I think he's just totally too small for the 140-pound division.
Oh, I said that. I've been saying that the whole time. He was small for 135.
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't drop down to 130.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once you hit 30, you're especially for males, your protein, your bone density, your muscle bulk, all that actually increases as you get into your 30s. It doesn't decrease; it actually increases. So, men really don't hit their testosterone peak until they're like 35. So, I mean, once you hit 36, it's all downhill from there. But you're not really at your peak until you're about mid-30s. And it gets harder. I mean, as most blokes, as they get older, they go up in weight. Very rarely do they go down.
Yeah, I was going to say, that window's, he's missed that window.
Exactly. So, I mean, if George loses, I mean, he's made enough money. He can get himself a nice little commentary job with Matchroom, or someone else will pick him up, and he can spend the rest of his days commentating or running a gym. Or there's a multitude of things he can do besides getting his head kicked in. So, and I mean, to his credit, he really hasn't been beaten up too badly. I mean, the Lopez fight, Haney, no, not really. Haney just schooled him. Lomachenko knocked him out.
Yeah, the first knockout of his, Loma put him down.
So, but I mean, for how many fights has he had? 20-something fights. He's only been knocked out once. That's not too bad, considering at the level
25 fights.
And the guys he's been fighting, so he's only been knocked out once. That's a pretty good achievement. So I think while you're young, you're healthy, you're wealthy, be wise and say fuck it, because he's got 3 children to consider, a wife and 3 children. So if I was in his position and I lost, I'd be like, fuck it, fuck it, I'm gonna call it a day, and because once you get old, I mean, he doesn't want to end up like Mundine, who can, and those older guys who can barely string a couple of words together now.
Yeah.
So, because Chock fought far too long. So, and like you give a myriad of fighters, like Muhammad Ali. Look what happened to him. He fought far too long. He should have finished after, when did his doctor say? After the Thriller Manila. He should have never fought again. So, there's a point. The hardest thing for professional boxers, I've said many, many times on this channel, the hardest thing for professional anything, whether you're a soldier, a footy player, boxer, is to know when to quit. That's the hardest thing to do in any professional sport or any professional anything is when to call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you keep going, you'll just run yourself into the fucking ground, and by the time you're 50, you're completely botched.
Yeah, because it's not going to get any easier with the opponents. Let's say if he does win the title and he wants to continue, it's not going to get any easier. Even if he does win, I think you should call it a day.
Who's the other chick? Because Lopez, that if he wins, Lopez should have the unification. That's a multi-million-dollar fight. Lopez would be mad.
To get that loss back, that would make sense.
I think Boots Ennis would probably kick the shit out of Tio anyway. So, because Tio hasn't looked. When's the last time Tio looked impressive?
Yeah, exactly. And also, Richard Comey, I believe it was. But also, Teofimo. I don't think that Teofimo has the power for 147 pounds.
No, I don't. I don't. I think Boots will take care of him pretty easily. But who's the other champions at 140? There's
Alberto Puello. He's going to be taking on Sabril Matias. A lot of people think Sabril Matias is shot. That's going to be in July on that undercard of Edgar Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz and Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda. That's going to be in an outdoor tennis stadium in July the 12th, I believe.
Okay, well, if George wins, then he takes on the winner of Zepeda Stevenson. Well, Stevenson, if he pulls his finger out, should probably take care of William Zepeda without too many dramas on paper, but in reality, who knows? Because when's the last time Shakur Stevenson looked impressive?
The same.
He's been looking pretty shit of late. He's getting the job done, but he's not doing it.
Yeah, he said he's got a point to prove. This was just the press conference a few days ago with William Zepeda, because online and social media, it has been getting to Shakur Stevenson that people's been calling him a sleeping pill.
Yeah, exactly. He gets the job done, but he ain't doing it he ain't no knockout highlight reel. So people aren't talking about his fights, and I don't know how he's making money because he ain't selling no tickets because he's putting people to sleep.
Yeah. And the other champion of WBA is Gary Antoine Russell. Powerhouse. I think he will maul George Kambosos, knock him out. He's a PBC fighter. So it's not really a strong division. And, another route Kambosos will be able to go, that's if he does decide. If he does decide to, continue fighting, that WBO is going to be vacant. If Teofimo does move up to fight Boots Ennis. But, then he would run into somebody like Isaac Cruz, Jack Catterall, I think that, if he wins and he's allowed a voluntary, then go fight Liam Paro in Australia and then call it quits.
Yep, I agree. But that probably won't happen because as we remember, we haven't talked about it much yet. Liam Paro is now signed a no limit. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't think no limit
politically,
have any. No limit is only on the world scale is a drop in the ocean, but
in Australia they run broadcaster. I get you. That makes sense. Broadcaster issues.
Actually, no, that could work because remember, bloody DAZN bought 65% of bloody main events. So
how about that?
Be fine. Yeah, so don't forget that. So DAZN pretty much owns main events. So political, broadcast-wise, that won't be a friggin' problem.
Yeah, so, but it's still gonna be some intricate, deep, nuanced politics in there where, still, Matchroom and No Limit working together. I don't know. It could be some, some deeper political mumbo jumbo on there. But closing thoughts on Hitchins and Kambosos. I'm guessing you got Hitchins winning.
Sorry?
I'm guessing you predicting Hitchins?
I'm predicting Hitchins, but I hope George kicks the living shit out of him.
Yeah.
So, I just got a feeling that George might use his mind games because George is very, very good at mind games because that's how he beat Tio. Because as you recall, up until the fight, when the fight was first announced, we thought that George would give Tio a good account of himself and Tio would take care of him in 6 rounds. Mm-hmm. By the week of the fight, we were changing out. It was up to 50-50. Remember that? But then again, that fight took like a fucking year and a half to happen.
Yeah.
So, if George gets into Richardson's head, right, which he does have the ability to do, he's very good at playing mind games, old George. That could sway a little. Because I don't know. I got an inkling that if George gets into Richardson's head, then he's already won the fight. Because it's mind games, really. most professional sports, it's more mental than physical. I'll tell you that for friggin', for real. So, but I hope George kicks the living piss out of him. But I'd have to say 60-40 Hitchins.
Okay.
65-35 Hitchins. So.
And I'm going Hitchins in a fight where I'll be surprised if George Kambosos gets 2 rounds. That's how I'm seeing this fight going. But we gonna see, because maybe because George knows that this is his last chance, he gonna actually come out there and try to do something. Like go to another gear than he's been in his last previous fights. Actually look different, and also he's gonna be on a big stage fighting in Madison Square Garden. He's definitely been an overachiever in my eyes to get where he's got and all the title shots, and just to be main eventing at this time with him just being George Kambosos from Australia.
And to be fair, here's another point. There's no way in hell Hitchins would be on the same level as Haney, Lopez, or Lomachenko. Not even come close to anything those guys achieved. So that also works in George's favour, is that he's been in there with a lot better competition.
Yeah. So tell me about what happened with Sam Goodman.
Snooze fest, good fight. There's a lot of people, I think these are mostly Mexican fans, that actually thought that old mate, I can't remember his name, so apologies to the Mexican fighter.
Cesar Espinoza.
Cesar Espinoza, yeah. A lot of people have thought that Cesar Espinoza won the fight.
Interesting, because the cards were 99-92, 99-91, and 190.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I had it 7 rounds to 3. 6 rounds to 4. It was a win, but it wasn't. I mean, the problem is with Sam Goodman is that he gets the job done, but he's another snooze fest fighter. He doesn't do it in dramatic fashion. He gets hit far too much. All this proves is that if he gets in with Inoue, which he won't because that shot's gone, Inoue will absolutely fucking murder him. And Australians lose their mind when they hear me say, "Oh, you can't say that." It's like, yes, I fucking can, because it's the bloody truth. If he gets in there Inoue will knock his fucking head off inside of 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Right? And people don't like to hear that. They're fucking shit. You cannot say a bloke who's winning these fights in not dramatic and not spectacular fashion is going to be anything but a footnote on the career of the undisputed champion who's defended his belt, 5 times now, and knocked everyone out in his path. So,
and for those that don't know, Inoue, the 122-pound undisputed champion, is supposed to be fighting WBA mandatory Marjan Akhmadaliev. That's supposed to be in September. Then at the beginning of the year, next year sometime, he's supposed to be fighting Junto Nakatani. And then after that, a Nick Ball. He's supposed to be moving up in weight to 126 pounds. So around this time next year should be his last fight. At 126 pounds, 122 according to their plans. And what that does do is, if they can buy Sam Goodman some time, he can possibly pick up a vacant title. Now it's looking like I'm seeing something here on social media, basically linking him to Marlon Tapales, the Filipino, for the interim title, the interim IBF title. Did you hear anything about that?
I think they mentioned it the other night, but God, the one thing I like about the IBF is they very rarely do interim titles, and over the last 6 months, they've been popping them out frequently now.
Yeah,
been popping them out because I hate interim titles because they're not the full title. What's the point? They're not the full title. You're either world champion or you're not. What's this interim bullshit?
Exactly. You're just a super mandatory, pretty much.
Exactly. You're not the full champion. I mean, I think it's an insult to the boxers, right, male and female, to put an interim belt on somebody and they go run around saying I'm a world champion. You're not a fucking
While
world
they
champion,
have to pay the sanctioning fees for that belt.
Exactly. You're losing 3% of your purse going to the IBF for their sanctioning fees. I think it's around 3%. For a belt that ain't the real title, right? I mean, it's just I don't even know why they bother, mate. You're not the world champion because you haven't fought the guy that's actually got the belt. Why even bother? It just, as you said, just makes you super mandatory for the real guy. And then of course, old mate gets beat or he moves up and he vacates and old mate gets elevated. And like, you never earned that belt, mate.
Yeah.
How many guys has happened to over the last, let's say, 10 years, 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years. It's been happening quite frequently. The most probably in history.
Old mates won an interim title. The real champions moved up or retired or whatever. They've been elevated to the real champion, and then they get the absolute living shit kicked out of them in their first defence.
Yeah.
How often does that happen?
I can
name 10 blokes right now.
One thing I see about Goodman is he's ranked number 1 by the IBF again, and that's why they're talking about him versus Tapales for the interim title. He is ranked number 4 by the WBC. And number 2 by the WBO. Yeah, so he's in the mix. So I'm wondering if they're going to take that Tapales fight, or if they're going to try to drag this out to possibly capture a vacant belt. But at the same time, as you said, he'll be, if he beats Tapales, he can be elevated to be the full IBF champion once Inoue moves up.
I think he should be taking on the former opponents of Inoue.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Nearies and what's the name of the last bloke he just knocked out?
Roman Cardenas.
Yeah, I think Sam should be starting to, lack of a better term, eat off Inoue's plate and just start picking off those guys. I mean, because really, what else is there left for him to do?
Tapales is a former Inoue opponent. That's how he became mandatory. Undisputed.
Perfect opponent for Sam. Start picking off these former opponents that Inoue's knocked off. Start building your resume. Start building your profile, and start, really becoming he's beaten this guy. He's beaten this guy. He's beaten this guy. He's beaten this guy. Because Inoue's cleaned out of the division. There's no buts and maybes about it.
Yeah.
And until he fights Nakatani, there's really no threat to. Inoue, the only threat I see, and probably everyone else in the world thinks, the only real threat to Inoue at this stage is Nakatani. I mean, whether or not 126 is a bridge too far for him, only time will tell. But at this point in time, Nakatani is. I'm
sorry. Correction. It's supposed to be Marjan Akhmadaliev in September, and then sometime around the beginning of the year, it's supposed to be Nakatani moving up, and then after that, he will move up to fight Nick Ball. He will wait for Nakatani to move up, and then he will fight Nick Ball at 126.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, because he's got to fight MJ in September, then Nakatani at the end of the year, and then he's going to fight Ball. I don't know, maybe this time next year, something like that.
Yeah, it can be about this time, maybe June, July.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. To their credit, I'm happy that the sanctioning bodies have not stripped Inoue of any of his belts, because he just keeps on fighting mandatory. So I think that's I think for once the sanctioning bodies are actually letting someone be undisputed about all the bullshit they carry on with, because they stripped Usyk for no good fucking reason. They stripped him like 3 weeks after. That was bullshit. Same thing with
Bivol, the WBC. Yeah. He pretty much trashed their belt.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no wonder he bloody threw it in the bin or whatever. They were going to do the Riddick Bowe thing. Remember we were talking about that a couple of weeks back? I mean, what's the point of having a bloke win a belt and then taking him off in 2 weeks later? It's like, fuck off. Yeah. Let the poor bastard, enjoy the victory for a bit.
You wanted to mention Harry Garside. How did he look?
Yeah, he looked all right. 5th round TKO. People are saying that maybe the fight was stopped a little bit too early, and I think the ref was led fear, was getting a bit of flack back from that. But I mean, Harry Garside.
Is he going to be serious this time? Like, is he talking about taking the sport seriously? Like what is he doing?
God knows. I mean, I can't take a bloke who puts dresses on and paints his nails seriously. If he wants to be a boxer, mate, I mean, come on, mate. What's your story? So, I mean,
it's his first fight in 3 years. I didn't know it's been that long. He hasn't fought since 2022.
Yeah, because he went back to the amateurs because he wanted to go back to the Olympics, and that worked out well. He got his ass handed to him in the first round. So I mean, Harry Garside, he has to prove himself in the ring like everything. Do I think his heart's in it? Probably not. I think he's just doing it to boost to keep relevant in the media eye, because the media loves guys like that. especially the Australian media. I mean, I've always said, Charlie Senior and Caitlin Parker actually won medals at the Olympics, and they barely get a mention. But Harry Garside, who had his ass handed to him in the Olympics, gets all the media attention. We're like, why? So, because he wears a dress, what do you fucking do?
All right,
how about you win some fights first, mate?
All right, closing thoughts?
Before you worry. I don't know, always looking forward to everything. So, I mean, I really hope George does get up, but if he doesn't, I really hope he does call it a day. Same with Sam. I mean, Sam, I don't think he's ever going to get that in-a-way fight, and that's disappointing. But, I mean, in reality, it's probably saved him. Because if he fought in a way, it probably would have finished off his career. He would have probably got destroyed in 6 rounds, and that probably would have been the end of him. Because, I mean, how many of Inouye's opponents have actually recovered from that loss? I mean, what are they all doing? I mean, Jason Maloney moved on fine, but what about everyone else? Has anyone actually done anything since losing to Inoue?
Nope.
Exactly. So not only is Inoue knocking these guys out, he's finishing off careers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they should avoid him at all costs, personally. I mean, but then again, you ask the question, what would you rather do? Would you have one fight for $1.5 million, or would you have 5 fights for $200,000?
Yeah.
That's what I'd be taking. I would take the 1.5 million, because 5 fights, that's bloody hard.
Yeah.
That's bloody. You got 5 training camps, you got 5 this, you got 5 that, you got beaten up 5 times. Take the 1.5, get your ass handed to you, and call it a day. So, but I wish best of luck to all of them. So even Garside, I hope he bloody does well. So.
All right, you said you wanted to talk about this 100 versus one gorilla. I got it on the screen. I just found that. I just saw it popping up everywhere just about a couple of weeks ago. I don't even know where it originated.
Okay. What 12-year-old thought of this question? This is what a 12-year-old would think of. All right? Seriously. Who the fuck cares? In what situation would 100 men unarmed take on a silverback gorilla? It would never happen. 2, this is the sort of bullshit that the people who are running the show, the elites or whoever the fuck they are, right, putting on these questions to distract us from the fact that these pricks are going to the bank, increasing our taxes, making housing completely unaffordable, fucking us left, right, from centre while we talk about 100 men taking on a gorilla. Who the fuck cares? Wake up, people. That is a smoke grenade to distract you from what's really going on. Wake the fuck up. Who the fuck cares? Right? And stop talking. God, this it makes me so frustrated. I don't know if I want to take a shit or a haircut.
Well,
a shit or a haircut.
You can follow Big J on Twitter. His Twitter is right here on the screen. You can follow me on Twitter, TstreeT Controversy. The link's down below in the description box. Also, expect for us to be popping out news soon. Right now, it is May the 17th. So sometime in the next couple of weeks, give or take, they're going to announce Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios and Tim Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora 2, or Fundora versus Tszyu 2 is supposed to be on that undercard. So look out for news for that. Please subscribe, drop a like, and thanks for watching.